Advocate Malindi, thank you for your time. And there were many intersections of your life and the life of the late George Bizos. We will talk about the personal in just a moment, but just talk to me about what George Bizos represented for you as an advocate in our justice system, but also what he represented generally for all of you as practitioners in the justice system.
Thank you very much for inviting me and Pabasa to speak to you on the unexpected passing away of George Bizos, an icon and a legend and a giant in the legal fraternity. George Bizos was truly a struggle lawyer. He was a struggle lawyer because he did not only represent political prisoners, political detainees, and appear in many politically charged matters. He also believed in the cause that those political activists and prisoners and detainees were championing. He believed in their struggle for building a truly non-racial, non-sexist, and equal society. At all times, from when he started representing political leaders in the treason trial of 1956, the Rivonia trial, and many others, including inquests, he was not only performing legal duties towards those who require them, he was contributing to the achievement of the cause that they were fighting for.
So let's talk about... So take us back then to your first encounters with George Bizos. It was during difficult times for you, was it not? I mean, the build-up and the preparation and the start of the Delmas treason trial, at which you were accused number 5.
Indeed, I encountered George Bizos more directly, besides his reputation as a legal representative, when he represented me and 21 others in the Delmas treason trial. And we encountered a person who not only was going to provide us with his professional skill and ability, but who believed in the cause that we were fighting for. And therefore, it was an inspiration to me and many others to be represented by George Bizos. And we spent most of the 400 days of that trial with him, not discussing only legal matters, but discussing personal matters as well, as they pertained to us as individual accused, our families, and all those in the society of the Val Triangle that was being devastated by violence meted out by the security forces of the Nationalist Party at the time.
Take us deeper then to the story then, Advocate Malindi, as it personally relates to you, right? My understanding is that during that particular trial, the Delmas treason trial, 1984 to 88, there was a bit of a secret, right? That you held with your now wife, Judge Caroline Nichols. Well, not a judge at that particular point. It's something that, you know, today would never be a secret, would never be something that even raises any eyebrows, but the only other person who knew was George Bizos. Tell us about that particular dynamic.
Because George Bizos was so interested in all our personal lives, he went out of his way to establish friendships with us. When I got romantically involved with Caroline Nichols, who was one of the attorneys in the defense team, George Bizos was the first one that we spoke to, because we were concerned that other people might see it as unethical, that the attorney got involved with her client. And especially when Caroline fell pregnant during the trial, that the state might use that to discredit her as a lawyer or even the legal team as a whole. And George Bizos was that father figure to Caroline in particular, and that's who we chose to speak to first about the matter. And George Bizos did not hesitate to assure us that there was nothing unethical, and if anyone so accused Caroline of being unethical, he was ready to fight that battle.
Yeah.
So that's where a personal relationship was strengthened with George Bizos, and he became the godfather of our first daughter.
All right, and now I want to go back to the professional space, right? There's sort of this coincidence, I don't know if that's the right word, where, you know, I think the year was 2012, and you were representing the ANC during that whole debacle around the issue of the spear and that portrait around former President Jacob Zuma, which brought to the fore issues around human dignity juxtaposed around the right to freedom of expression and freedom of the media. But it got personal for you to the point that you wept at that particular hearing. And a lot has been made out of that, and there were many debates at the time. But I juxtaposed that with George Bizos weeping at the end of the trial, the Delmas treason trial, after you had been sentenced. Of course, for you it was 5 years to be overturned on appeal. What was that about? The juxtaposition of an advocate that, you know, many people expect you to be dispassionate and just be concerned with the law, but in both instances, the sort of going beyond that, dispassionate or an all-in for the cause kind of legal representative.
You must realize, Thulasizwe, that as I said, George Bizos' involvement in our trial was not a mere technical legal issue. When we were sentenced, he saw the struggle being sent to jail, which is what the Delmas trial was about, to criminalize the struggle. You will remember that not only the 22 of us were tried, there were co-conspirators running into 900, including Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu, Dr. Mutlana, Beas Nodier, and many, many other activists in the struggle. So this was a showcase to destroy the United Democratic Front and its alliance with the ANC and SACP. It was a show trial, and it was that emotional for George Bizos when we were found guilty after he and Arthur Chaskalson and the other members of the legal team had fought a titanic battle to get us free. In the Zuma trial, Thulasizwe, I was not only fighting a technical legal battle for Zuma, it was also a fight for the vindication of the dignity of black people. And therefore, during the the interaction with the bench, issues arose that touched on the emotional part of being a South African whose dignity had been violated so many times and continues to be so violated to this day. And it brought tears to my eyes. It is one of those things.
Yeah.
It is one of those things that trigger the emotion in one's heart.
Yeah. And I do imagine, Advocate Malindi, that George Bizos passing in this week, when some of the issues that his contribution to the struggle for a just society was all about have again come to the fore, not for the first time, around issues of understanding race relations in South Africa, of understanding diversity, of sort of breaking down white normativity and basically trying this whole idea that what's white is right, something that people like George Bizos got long ago. The irony of that and the coincidence of that, talk to that a bit more. Does it signal that, you know, this giant may have walked through our history, but actually the issues and the struggles for which he stood continue?
As we say in the Pabasa statement, it was his absolute sincerity, fairness, and rigor of intellect and independence of mind that stood out for George Bizos. George Bizos used the law in order to fight for a society that is envisaged in our Constitution. Unfortunately, that has not been realized yet, and he has now departed. So he has left part of the struggle that has not been finished in South Africa. And it is said that we fought for freedom in our lifetime, and of course we have attained political freedom, but we have not attained the ultimate of freedom embodied in dignity, human rights, non-sexism, and economic equity for all the people of South Africa. George Bizos has left us not being totally satisfied because the gains of political freedom have not achieved to the extent expected the gains of economic freedom.
Right.
We have made some headways, but there is still a long way to go, and George would have been pivotal in advancing that struggle with all those who love freedom.
Advocate Gcina Malindi, I really have got to thank you for your time and your generosity with your memories and also your deep reflections. That's Advocate Gcina Malindi there of Pabasa. That's the Pan African Bar Association of South Africa.